Please welcome to the stage Adrian Frost.
Thank you. Short. Okay. All right. So, hi. Oh, there she is. Good gravy. So I grew up, went to high school in southwestern Louisiana. All the woos. I just heard them all. And so I was, I like to call it cool, uncool cool, which means that I was, like with my friends I was cool, kind of like the nerd thing. With my friends I was cool. I wore, ties and had an asymmetrical haircut and a spit curl. I had an earring up here, Jesus, in Lafayette, Louisiana, that's insane. All the other girls in school wore, everybody in school was big hair, parachute pants. They listened to Whitney Houston, I listened to the Violent Femmes. They went to see fucking Footloose, which is probably the worst movie ever made in the history of movies. I was like Blue Velvet. I went with my friend to she was reviewing Footloose for the school newspaper, and when it was over, I ran up the aisle screaming, "This is the worst movie ever made!" And everybody's like, "You gave fucking Footloose." So I was a messed up, crazy, most of my high school, they were experiencing 90210, and mine was more like Euphoria. So mine was sex and drugs and alcohol and more drugs and more sex at the age of 16, 17. Because when you come from a house that is dysfunctional or abusive, what you tend to do, there's no agency for you. So what you're doing to unburden yourself is have a lot of sex and do a lot of drugs and do a lot of drinking and write very bad dark poetry. So, which I still have all of it. And there was a point later in life where I tried to type it all out on my typewriter, so I would have it to sell as a book. Anyway, So here I am going from relationship to relationship from the age of 13, 14. But also there's nothing else to do in Southwest Louisiana but fucking drink. So I met a boy, again, named Christian, which tells you that this is not going to work, because he went to St. Thomas More Catholic High School. He wore polos, I wore, ripped fishnet tights. His parents loved the fact that we were together, and I took his virginity, which is like introducing him to chocolate. Because what is this? What is this wonder? It was the what? And I consider my vagina is like the Reese's peanut butter cup. It's like, whoa. Unfortunately though, like with Reese's, they try to package it different ways so you'll still love it. And that's what I was doing. So it was like, I'm a Christmas tree, I'm a pumpkin, I'm an Easter egg. What I really wanted to be was Ferrero Rocher, which comes in a nice wrapper, and you take it home and you love it forever. So Chris and I were madly in love. We were having sex all the time in his Toyota, in my bed, everywhere. And we wrote letters back and forth to each other as Louis and Gabrielle from Interview with the Vampire on parched wax paper with a wax seal and script. Like, that was so romantic. So we were doing that, and everything was awesome. And then he met someone else who, after 6 months, and after 6 months with high school love, you're gonna get married. I mean, you've been together 6 months. That's dog years. So he met this girl who was, I thought, everything I wasn't. Tall, beautiful, blue-eyed, went to a Catholic school, smoked menthols. I wrote a poem that starts, she smokes menthols, cool, blue like her eyes. I still have that fucking poem. But anyway, so he starts seeing her, he starts jerking me around, he's seeing both of us, the wonders of sex for him. I'm thinking, what am I gonna do without a man? I have to have one. I value myself through a boy. I missed him, I missed everything, and then I missed my period. Well, shit. And my mother took me to the gynecologist. I got a pregnancy test. They had to call you on the phone a few days later. It wasn't like, stick it up your nose and you have COVID. It wasn't like that. And they called me, and they said, it's inconclusive. We come back and take another one. So I went back and took another one. And then they called me. I remember the call because I had friends over and my phone rang, and I ran in and they said, you're pregnant. And I put my hand on my dresser and I just started to cry, and I thought, well, this will keep him in my life, won't it? You know, and so his parents and my parents decided that I would terminate the pregnancy. So we drove to Baton Rouge, which is now our way, and we went to a doctor's office. Chris was there. My parents were following us. I don't know why. Like, they thought we were going to go off to New Orleans and go to Bourbon Street and get drunk instead and hope it would fall out. But so we got to the doctor's office, and I went into the exam room, and I'm crying and nervous, and the nurse goes, well, then you shouldn't have gotten yourself into this situation.
Oh, nice.
And I said, you were wonderful in Cuckoo's Nest, and I left out the back door, and I ran away, and my parents found me a couple blocks later. We decided to go to Delta Women's Clinic instead. And so a week later, we went back to Delta Women's Clinic, which they more or less do this all the time, so they're not assholes. And they were the doctor had a wonderful, he was very gentle, he had a sense of humor, not like knock, who's there, not your baby, but he was very nice and warm about it. And it's very much like getting the suction in your mouth when you go to the dentist, but not in your mouth. And they didn't give me anesthetic because I had taken aspirin earlier in the morning. And so it was an amazing situation. So as we're driving back in the Toyota, across the Chapelay Basin, Chris says, do you know what's the best thing about this? And I thought, no. Is it the not anesthetic abortion that I had, or that you're jerking me around with Shalimot, and I don't care for on YouTube, fuck you? And or is it, what is it that you're going to leave me? And he said that you haven't complained about my driving this entire time. And I thought, I still want him. I still want to be with him, because that's how I valued myself. That's who I wanted to be. I kept my head down. I dressed all in black. I wore ties. I went to Salvation Army. Nobody was going to love me unless I could give a mean hand job. And I still wanted to be with this guy because that's all I had. So now it's 36 years later. I'm 53. I'm friends with Chris on Facebook. He's getting his second divorce. And if I could go back in time and tell that girl who had to skip 17, I had to skip 17, I skipped all of my teenage years, keep your head up, because you're everything. You're everything. You mean more than anything to the world, and there's something up there for you. And keep wearing black, because it's fucking slimming as fuck. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Adrian. I feel like